A very warm welcome to all respected and dear audience in the webinar conducted by uh, Ahmedabad Therapy College by Bharat University. It is really a great opportunity for all of us to be here in this uh, seminar. The person whom I am inviting today is a very dynamic personality who will enlighten ICU and the role of physiotherapy. He has a very huge experience in the field of ICU management in physiotherapy. He has almost 9 years of experience. Currently, he has physiotherapy in DCS hospital. So, my warm welcome to Dr. Mr. Please enlighten your knowledge and please give us some about the ICU. Dr.
Hello, am I audible to everybody?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes.
You can.
Okay.
Very warm welcome, sir.
First of all, thank you, sir. Thank you. First of all, I thank Dr. Shreya Mehta and Dr. Gaurav Patel for inviting me in and giving me an opportunity for this webinar. My topic today is essentials of physiotherapy in ICU. So, what we will discuss. So, everybody in the field of physiotherapy, ICU techniques, everybody knows. There is no need to go into detail of the techniques of the physiotherapy in ICU because everybody knows like chest physiotherapy, mobilization, positioning, everybody knows. But what we are today discussing is uh, the problem which we are facing as a physiotherapist in ICU and how to prevent it by and precision observation. So, first of all, working in an ICU as a physiotherapist, they can get emergency situation at any moment. Different scenario, keeping physiotherapy in mind. I have just mentioned it that sudden sputum retention, which is very common. Sometimes everybody has some experience it with physiotherapy. Sometimes patient desaturate. That is because of sputum retention due to physiotherapy secretion collect in your main bronchi and then it can cause sudden sputum retention. So it is very common when you go for physiotherapy. Patients or lung collapse during chest physiotherapy by means of hypotension, by means of tachycardia, abnormal heart rhythm, or by means of sputum retention. Then the third one is patient and lung collapse during ambulation. So many a time it happens after CABG when we start the patient to walk. Sometimes patient collapse due to postural hypotension or due to respiratory problems. So these are very common and we are facing it day to day in a physiotherapy. So we will discuss about that. So how can we avoid this type of situation during ICU physiotherapy? First of all, prevention is better than cure. Everybody knows. So with physiotherapy, our main aim is whether we are profiting patients with chest physiotherapy or not. It is a secondary. The first thing which we keep on mind is we should not harm the patient. So to not harm the patient, we need to be a better physiotherapy. For that, assessment is very important. So chase in ICU therapy also, your assessment is very crucial. So keep on mind that for clinical physiotherapists, time is also very important. So we need to work fast. Being precise with clinical decision makes sense. Communication is most important with doctors, with nurse, with attendants, with another physiotherapist, because the management of patient in ICU is multidirectional or you can say multidisciplinary. So if you don't communicate your problems or which problems you're facing with the doctors and nurses, you will not be able to make a proper decision or make a proper plan for the patients. And whenever you are in doubt, call for the help. That is very important. Do not do on your own in ICU. If you in doubt, if you feel a patient is deteriorated during the physiotherapy, call for the help. So main message of this slide is we cannot omit assessment in the ICU. This lecture does not replace the assessment. Assessment is crucial for the physiotherapist in ICU. So with this much of experience in ICU therapy, I have made a triad system so that we can recognize which patient has to be monitored more frequently and which patient we can monitor less frequently. So it will help in categorize the patients. In ICU, it is important to assess for contraindication rather than indication that we have discussed. Do not harm the patient. If your physiotherapy is benefiting the patient or not, that is secondary, but our first priority is to not to harm the patients. Put the patients in specific triage will boost the confidence of physiotherapy as well as improve the credibility. Why it is important? If you put a patient in triage system before starting a physiotherapy, that will give you a confidence that in this patient I need to monitor frequently, I need to see this, I need to call for the help, or I need to do some extra things in this patients. This will improve your confidence to go for physiotherapy, which is very lacking. Everybody knows chest physiotherapy, clapping, vibration, positioning, head down positioning, mobilization, everything has been there in our books. It is not like that કે આપણે કંઈક નવું શીખી રહ્યા છે. It is everything is there, but the problem is lack of confidence in ICU. When a new physiotherapist or new students will go to ICU, they know everything, but still they make a mistake because of lack of confidence. So for that, you can categorize the patient in the ICU in a triad system. How we will go for that? It include categorize the patients on the basis of ECG, vitals, ventilator, etc. So first of all, red sign. So these are the red sign for ECG and vitals. You can say ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. If you see on multipara, this is a red sign. VT and VF. If you see a patient with VT and VF, then it is a red sign. We should not go for physiotherapy in this. This is a medical emergency. So you need to call the doctors and start a defibrillation. Then comes atrial fibrillation and atrial flutter, which are unstable. We will go into detail. How can you say this is unstable? How can you say this is a stable? Supraventricular tachycardia, complete or third degree heart block, and second degree heart block, which is unstable. These findings are definitely a red sign. Other than that, if you see an ECG, if there is a ST elevation in any of the lead, then it is a red sign. But it is less likely you will see a ST elevation in ICU as a physiotherapist, because most of the patients of ST elevation will come after angioplasty or bypass to you, so it will be a settled patient. But this abnormal rhythm will be there, can be seen, and you can encounter at any point of time in your physiotherapy. Then vitals, heart rate less than 50 or more than 150, definitely a red sign. Systolic BP greater than 200 or systolic BP less than 80 millimeter of mercury, it is a red sign. Diastolic BP greater than 110 or diastolic BP less than 50, it is a red sign. Respiratory rate greater than 40 without ventilator or on ventilator, it is a red sign. Or if it is less than 5, or abnormal breathing. SpO2 less than 80% on ventilator, definitely a red sign. We need to call for the help, or we have to be a very precautionary. We have to take a precaution before physiotherapy. If temperature is more than 101 Fahrenheit or less than 92 Fahrenheit, and intracranial pressure more than 20 millimeter of mercury, these all are red sign. Some of the red signs are very important, like VT and VF, in which you have to stop the physiotherapy immediately. Some of the red signs are like you have to be very precaution. You have to take a very much precaution, call for the help, take a help of physician or clinician to. For example, if you see a patient with 101 Fahrenheit temperature, then ask the clinician to give a medication, and then you can go for the physiotherapy. So it is very simple. Some of the signs are like you can revert it back. Clinical diagnosis. DVT, definitely. Deep vein thrombosis, red sign. Pulmonary embolism, definitely a red sign. Cardiac arrest, recent, red sign. Rapid progressive tension pneumothorax, we cannot give physiotherapy in rapid progressive tension pneumothorax. Rib fracture, spinal fracture, chest physiotherapy. For example, clapping is contraindicated. Recent hemoptysis, hematemesis, every form of physiotherapy is contraindicated. Ongoing convulsion or epilepsy, definitely a contraindication. Then comes the ventilatory sign. P peak more than 40 millimeter of Hg, it's a contraindication. Air leak or circuit alarm, and FiO2 more than 80%, that is oxygen requirement is more than 80% in the patient, is a red sign. Then comes the blood markers. INR ratio more than 2.8. That means the patient has a very much chances of hemorrhage. So we need to be a very precautional. We need to do a mild or moderate type of physiotherapy. We cannot be aggressive with chest physiotherapy. Otherwise, it can cause hemorrhage. Potassium more than 6 or less than 2.5 can cause cardiac arrhythmia, cardiac instability. So we need to be precaution. Sodium more than 160. If a sodium goes more than 160, there will be a chances of epilepsy. The patient may have a convulsion. Patient may go into the deep coma. So we need to be very cautious for going a physiotherapy. If it is less than 120, same neurological symptoms will be there. If partial pressure of carbon monoxide more than 65 millimeter of Hg in non-COPD patient, then definitely it is a sign of respiratory failure. So first we need to reduce the partial pressure of carbon monoxide, then we can go for the physiotherapy. If PCO2 more than 75 millimeter of Hg in COPD, then it is a sign of clinical instability. Now comes the yellow sign. ECG, atrial fibrillation which is stable, atrial flutter stable, SVT stable, sinus tachycardia, first degree heart broken, sinus bradycardia. These all are yellow signs. So we need to be cautious, but not as much as red sign. Ventilatory sign, any patients on ventilator is a yellow sign. Definitely we need to be cautious, but not as much as red sign. High PEEP, that is more than 10 millimeter of Hg. If patient require high PEEP, then definitely it is a yellow sign. And FiO2 more between 60 to 80 is a for more than 36 hours is a yellow sign. If it is less than then it is a green sign. Then you need to give a very less cautions and you can go for aggressive physiotherapy. Clinical diagnosis and condition: multiple trauma, major abdominal and thoracic surgery, osteopenia, mean arterial pressure less than 60 millimeter of Hg, GCS less than 8, hypovolemia or anemia, and thrombocytopenia. These all are yellow sign. You need to be cautious, but not as much as red sign. Blood markers are INR between 1.6 to 2.3, potassium between 5.5 to 6.0, and potassium between 3.5 to 2.5. So these patients are little bit risky, but not as risky as red sign. So you can go for the physiotherapy, but you need to be very cautious. You need to monitor every time for cardiac abnormality. Sodium between 145 to 160 or between 120 to 135. PCO2 greater than 55 millimeter of Hg in non-COPD. So this is an impending failure. So you can reverse it back with the help of expiratory exercise, with the help of chest physiotherapy, with the help of deep breathing exercise. So you can act on this kind of patient. And if the urine output is less than 300 ml, that is a yellow sign. That means patient may have a kidney failure. So you need to be cautious. So now we will go into detail of the ECG, which are red signs. First is, as I have speak, ventricular tachycardia. So the graph which all of you are seeing downstairs, down this is a ventricular tachycardia. This is the monomorphic ventricular tachycardia. So this type of graph on multipara, then definitely a red sign. Ventricular tachycardia or ventricular fibrillation, any broad base QRS, that is a broad base QRS. If you can see here, the QRS is very broad. It almost occupies two big boxes. So it is a very broad. So this type of rhythm in multipara is a red sign. You need to stop the physiotherapy if you see this type of rhythm anywhere, even if it is not, even if this patient is not referred, you need to call for the help. You need to check for the pulse. If it is pulse, if it is no, the pulse is not there. Where we should check the pulse? That is a keratoid pulse. So if you check the pulse with this type of rhythm and pulse is not there, then you have to defibrillate the patient and drugs and CPR. That is cardiopulmonary resuscitation. If it is pulse is there, then also physiotherapy is contraindicated. You need to call for the app, then then defibrillation, which is called as a cardioversion in the medical terminology, and drugs, that is aminophylline. Now this graph which all of you are seeing is a ventricular tachycardia, but it's just polymorphic. That means the morphology of QRS is very different in each graph. You can see some of the QRS are very big, some of QRS are very short, but in general, if you see the base of QRS are broad. So this is a red sign. Again, anything broad-based QRS, definitely a red sign. What will you do? Call for the help, detach the patient from the ventilator and give manual breathing, start CPR, earliest possible defibrillation and anti-arrhythmic drug. These are all the what we can do. This is a medical emergency. If doctors are not there, you have to give a CPR and manual breathing. So every physiotherapist who work in the ICU need to know CPR and manual breathing, which we call as a BLS or basic life support. Now ventricular fibrillation. So this graph which all of you are seeing is a bizarre graph. There is no QRS complex in this, and you can see this type of graph is called ventricular fibrillation. It is a urgent situation. You have to detach the patient from ventilator, give manual breathing, start CPR, earliest possible defibrillation is needed, and call anti-arrhythmic drugs. And of course, call for the don't go for patient's management alone. You need to have help in this kind of patient. Most of the ICU has a team of doctors who can handle, team doctors and nurse who can handle this type of situation. So now, what is stable SVT, what is stable atrial fibrillation, and what is stable atrial flutter? So first ECG graph, what you are seeing is a atrial flutter. You can see a arrow. This arrow shows this is a sawtooth appearance of the P wave. There are lots of P wave followed by QRS, and all the QRS are at the same interval. So this is called atrial flutter. The second graph, you can see the QRS are not at the same interval. Some QRS are very far away from each other, and some QRS are very close to each other. With that also, there is no definite P wave or uniform P wave is seen in the second graph. This is called atrial fibrillation. And the third graph which you are seeing is a SVT. P wave is not there, only QRS and T, QRS and T, QRS and T. So this, and here also all the QRS complex are at the same interval. So this is called supraventricular tachycardia. These all three graphs, if you are seeing in multipara, you need to check for the patient's clinical signs. Where after that only you can categorize the patient as a red sign or yellow sign. So what will you see in the patients? First of all, you need to see a blood pressure. If the blood pressure, as we have mentioned, is less than 100 or less than 80, then definitely it is a unstable tachycardia. If patient is perspirate, if you see very much perspiration on the patient, then definitely it is a red sign. If you see a patient is not conscious or losing a conscious, then definitely it is a red sign. But if the patient is, if you look of the patient, the BP is normal, there is no perspiration, patient's absolutely normal, talking to you, or conscious and oriented, then this is a stable tachycardia. If you find a patient of with this type of rhythm and it is a stable, then you can definitely go for the physiotherapy. If you find a patient, and if patient has a hypotension, patient is very much perspired, losing a consciousness, then it is a unstable, and you need to call for the help, and you need to stabilize the patient before going for the physiotherapy. How will you stabilize? For example, BP is low, then call for the help, call the doctor, tell them to improve the BP. They will start inotropic support. BP will go up, patient will be stable, then you go for physiotherapy. So now this all type of things are tachycardia. Now we will go for bradycardia. Bradycardia can be divided broadly into regular bradycardia or irregular bradycardia. What is irregular bradycardia? So if you can see, all the QRS complex are at the same interval on both the graph. So these are regular bradycardia. If all the QRS complex are not at the same interval, which you are seeing right now, then this is a irregular bradycardia, right? So regular bradycardia can be divided into two types, which is first degree or complete heart block or third degree. So what is first degree heart block? Where first degree heart block is always a yellow sign. Most of the people with first degree heart blocks can live up for a very healthy life and go for physiotherapy also. There is no need to be worried. Of course, you have to monitor the patient while going chest physiotherapy in ICU. But this type of rhythm are very normal and you can go for physiotherapy. So you can see this is a first degree heart block where only PR is prolonged, QRS at regular interval, and PR is more prolonged, or you can say more, PR is more than two box or more than one big box of the ECG paper. So this is a first degree heart block. If you go for third degree heart block, then here PR is not fixed. If you see the first QRS, you can see PR is absolutely normal. But on the second QRS, PR is very prolonged. It consumes almost 3 box. Then on the third one, if you see it is prolonged, but it consumes only 1 or 2 box. So this type of QRS, where you can see PR is not fixed, but of course the distance between the QRS is absolutely same or identical. So this is a regular rhythm, but PR is not fixed. But on the first graph, the QRS is at the regular interval. That means it is a regular rhythm, but PR is absolutely fixed but prolonged. So the first one is first degree heart block, and the second one is third degree heart block. Third degree heart block is always a red sign. If you see this type of rhythm on the ECG, you have to stop the patient, because this type of patients require pacing, immediate pacing. So we have to stop the physiotherapy. Both are regular, as you have seen. Normal PR is equal to one big box, but on the first graph, if you see, the PR is not one big, so it is more than one big box. So it is a prolonged PR. That's why it is a first degree heart block. And one has a fixed PR, that is first degree heart block. One has a knot, that is third degree heart block. Now we will go for irregular bradycardia. Then you can see these both are irregular. How it is irregular? Because the distance between QRS is different. It is not the same. It is changing on the first graph also and on the second graph also. So now what is different between first and second graph? So if you see in the first graph, whenever QRS is coming, that is the first one, second one, third, fourth, and fifth, if you see a QRS, whenever QRS is there, PR PR interval is fixed. Everybody can see that, right? Whenever QRS complex is there, the PR is fixed, but P is also coming without QRS, like in the middle of the graph. Here the P wave is not followed by QRS. Here P wave is not followed by QRS. Where in the second graph, if you see, in the first PR is prolonged. In the second, when the second QRS complex come, PR is more prolonged than first one. In the third one, P wave is there and QRS is absent. And again on the third one, when QRS is came, PR is normal. Then again it is gradually prolonged. So that is the difference. In the first one, PR is fixed whenever QRS comes to the graph, where in the second one, PR is gradually prolonged followed by missing QRS complex. So this is a second degree. First one is second degree type 2 block, and the second one is second degree type 1 block. All these blocks are definitely a yellow sign if patient is stable, and if patient is not stable, then it is a red sign. We have seen what is stable. So whenever you see a yellow sign in a ECG, you need to go for the vitals. If vitals are stable with a yellow sign in the ECG, then that means patient is in the yellow sign. Now we go for ventilator settings. So what to do if patient is on ventilation? All the patients on ventilator, either invasive or non-invasive, comes under yellow or red sign. If patient is on ventilator, then it definitely is a yellow or red sign, not a green sign. So we need to be cautious, but need to see. So in general, there are 23 modes of ventilator, but common mode which are used in practice are CPAP, that is non-invasive, BiPAP, this is non-invasive, and after that all these things are invasive. That is SIMV, that is SIMV, assist control, PCV or VCV, CMV, and PSV. See, SIMV means synchronized intermittent ventilatory ventilation. Assist control is also same as SIMV. PCV and VCV are controlled ventilation, that is pressure control and volume control ventilation. CAV means continuous mesentery ventilation, and PSV means pressure support ventilation. So what to see on the ventilators very quickly? This does not replace your assessment of ventilator. We are just seeing what to see very quickly to assign the patient for the yellow or the red sign. So spontaneous or mesentery, when the ventilation is spontaneous or it is a mesentery. Spontaneous means patient is breathing but machine is giving support. Mesentery means all the breathing is given by the machine only. P peak or plateau pressure, P positive expiratory end pressure, FiO2 fraction of oxygen required to breathe the air, airway resistance if there it is there, and minute ventilation. These things has to be checked thoroughly before assigning the patient. So why it is important? So normally peak plateau pressure or peak inspirator pressure should not exceed more than 40 millimeter of mercury. Sudden increase in the peak inspirator pressure indicate mostly ET tube or tracheostomy tube blockage or acute bronchospasm or pneumothorax. Is all things require immediate attention. So if you find a patient or if you find a peak or peak inspirator pressure suddenly increase during the physiotherapy, then it is a red sign. You need to stop the physiotherapy and you need to go for the other things like suctioning or manual hyperinflation and suctioning to remove the blockage. If it is a pneumothorax, then definitely you need to go for X-ray and ICD insertion. If it is a bronchospasm, you need to relieve the bronchospasm with the nebulizer. So how will you determine? With auscultation, with X-ray, and with your clinical judgment. So what is the PIP? So if you see in the graph, This is a PEEP. First one is PEEP, which is little bit higher than 0, that is 5 millimeter of Hg. Now, when a patient inspires, the graph, the pressure in the lung will go rise. Okay, and at the peak point in the inspiration is called PIP, that is peak inspiratory pressure. Now, if you breath hold or if you close the expiratory valve, do not allow the patient to exhale, then after some times a graph will be plateaued. This steady graph of during inspiratory hold is called as a plateau or peak plateau pressure. So the difference between peak plateau and PIP indicate resistance to flow, and the peak plateau indicate the compliance of the lung or thorax. So whenever the increase in PIP is more than peak plateau or the difference is more, that means the resistance to the airflow is increased, and the cause of increase the resistance is typically either it is because of bronchospasm, that is bronchospasm will narrowing the airway, which will increase the resistance and increase the PIP. Either it is because of pneumothorax will compress all the lung, tension pneumothorax, and it will increase the resistance. But definitely in the pneumothorax or in the ARDS with peak PIP, peak plateau pressure is also increased. Whereas in only in airway disease like bronchospasm or tube blockage or kinking of the tube, only PIP will be increased, and the difference between peak plateau and PIP will be more. So this has to be seen on the ventilator. So if P peak is greater than 40, that means ARDS, pneumothorax or blockage. Now how will you check? If P peak is more than 40, there will be a ARDS, but it has to be seen with clinical signs like PaO2 upon FiO2, chest X-ray, CT scan, other involvement organ. You can see a patch, you can see a infection in the lung. So these all things put together a clinical picture of the ARDS. If P peak is greater than 40, then it can maybe due to pneumothorax. So how will you see the pneumothorax? Definitely with the chest X-ray and auscultation. Now, if P peak is more than 40, and that it can be due to sputum, blockage of VT tube, kinking of tube, severe bronchospasm, then you have to check for the air blast and PIP, which I have covered. Right? What is air blast? Air blast is when you remove the ventilator from the patient and you just feel the air coming out of the lung with normal expiration. If you feel it is coming out or easily coming out, you can feel on your hand or palm of your hand. If it is not coming out, that means tube is kinked. If PIP is higher, if PIP is higher, suggesting of increased airway resistance by means of kinking of the tube or blocked tubes or severe airway narrowing due to spasm, or maybe because of sputum retention, what can we do? So possible action: if tube is blocked, immediate suction with large bore catheter with manual hyperinflation and 2 to 4 ml of sodium bicarbonate or normal saline. If the tube is kinked, you can readjust it. If it is because of bronchospasm, treat with the proper bronchodilator. Call for the help if you don't know which bronchodilator should be used. If not sure, call treating physician, as high pressure can damage the lung. So એવું ના થવું જોઈએ કે આ જોયા પછી આપણે જતા રહીએ અને કોઈ ઇન્ફોર્મેશન ના આપે. કમ્યુનિકેશન ઇઝ વેરી ઇમ્પોર્ટન્ટ. My first slide was there કે communication is important. If you see P peak greater than 40 on the ventilator, then you need to inform the physician. If you don't know any of these things, only P peak greater than 40 is an indicator of red sign, and you need to communicate with the clinical physician or attending doctor. So now we will go for PEEP. It should not be exceed greater than 10 millimeter of Hg mercury except in the ARDs. So if in ARDS or in certain type of ARDS, definitely doctors, clinicians are giving more than 10 mm of Hg. That means maybe 15 or 18, 19. But if you see a PEEP greater than 10, then there are precautions we should know when giving a physiotherapy. These are aggressive chest physiotherapy. So aggressive chest physiotherapy can be given if the patient has a PEEP greater than 10, but you need to monitor for the PIP in that, because with a high PEEP, if PIP is also increased, or because of bronchospasm, or because of kinking, or because of sputum retention, then it will damage your lungs to a greater extent. Manual hyperinflation. When you go for manual hyperinflation in the large PEEP, you need to press a PEEP valve on the manual bag. It will be there on your unbowing whenever you go for ICU, or else go for mechanical hyperinflation, or other. Before detaching the patient from the ventilator, you need to reduce the PEEP gradually, then go for manual hyperinflation, then go for suctioning. After that, if whenever you attach the patient, gradually raise the PEEP. Otherwise, if you suddenly open the high PEEP patients from the ventilator, that pressure from 10 mmHg comes to zero, and whenever you attach again with the same pressure, this pressure goes up from 0 to 10. This sudden rise in pressure from 0 to 10 and 10 to 0 or will create a with damage the alveoli with the so much of high pressure. This is called wear and tear phenomenon. So keep on mind, whenever you see a PEEP more than 10 millimeter of Hg, do not detach the patient. Do not detach patient. If you want to detach the patient, reduce the PEEP gradually, then detach the patient. You go for your physiotherapy routine, then end suctioning. After that, whenever you attach the patient, gradually comes to the 10 mm or more than 10 millimeter of mercury pressure. Then the third one is open suctioning. I prefer closed suctioning on this type of patient than open suctioning, because to go for open suctioning, you have to detach the patient from the ventilator, which will create again the same phenomenon of wear and tear on the alveoli. So now FiO2. FiO2 greater than 60% on ventilators is a bad sign, especially for more than 36 hours. You can call it yellow sign. During physiotherapy, monitoring is must. Increase to 100% of FiO2 during suctioning if the FiO2 requirement of patient is more than 60%. Or if you want to go for manual hyperinflation or something else, give the previously give the high FiO2 for 2 minutes, then go for suctioning. After that also give a high FiO2. It is very important, because sometimes we miss this type of thing and patient go into the hypoxia and then never comes back. So it is very important to maintain the oxygenation if you go for any invasive procedure. The last one is minute ventilation. It is quick measure to determine work of breathing. At rest, normal male is around 5 to 8 liter per minute. What is minute ventilation? It is minute ventilation is a product of tidal volume and respiratory rate. If a patient sustains higher minute volume, that is more than 8 ml of 8 liter per minute for a prolonged period of time, let's say for 4 hours, 5 hours, then it is a yellow sign. Why? Because this indicate there is the work of breathing is very high. It requires energy. So patient is using all this energy of him to maintain the respiration. And if in this type of critical state, if you go for physiotherapy arbitrarily, it can increase the work of breathing more. It will increase a more demand on the energy system, and patient may collapse during the physiotherapy. So if you find this type of patient, I would prefer you go for breathing control techniques. Don't go for chest physiotherapy like clapping and whatever. Go for breathing control techniques, reduce the minute ventilation, then go for other physiotherapy. And if it doesn't go down, then you need to ventilate the patient with appropriate ventilator. You need to change the mode, you need to reduce the mode. There are lots of things to reduce the minute ventilation. If you don't know, go for communicate with the clinical physician, tell them that this patient has a high minute volume, high minute ventilation, we need to decrease it. Now we'll go for vitals. So BP, a drop of systolic pressure greater than 20 millimeter of Hg or below pre-exercise level, or a disappropriate rise of more than 200 millimeter of mercury for systolic and 110 for diastolic is a red sign. Heart rates less than 40 or more than 150 require a very cautions, and you have to monitor during physiotherapy. Probably we should stop the physiotherapy and see for the rhythm abnormality if you find this type of heart rate. For mobilization in ICU, use simple method 220 minus of H, which is very easy. If resting heart rate is very close to maximum heart rate, it is a red sign. So if the heart rate is, if the heart rate of the patient which is resting is very high to the maximum heart rate, then if you go for walking in or mobilization in this type of patient, then definitely there is a chance of patients going for collapse. So see the patient, see the maximum heart rate, see the resting heart rate, you will come to know whether I want to mobilize this patient or not. If you see the heart rate is close to the maximum heart rate, then definitely you should not mobilize this patient today. You need to reduce the heart rate, you need to see the other parameters why it is increased. If respiratory rate less than 5 or more than 40 or abnormal breathing, definitely is a red sign. Need to call for the help, reduce the rate. Acute temperature rising or hypothermia, typically with a temperature of more than 101 Fahrenheit. Mean arterial pressure less than 60 millimeter of mercury is indication of poor perfusion. So this type of patient also may collapse because of poor perfusion. SpO2 less than 60% with FiO2 of 80% or more is definitely a red sign. You need to quickly change the ventilator mode. So what is mean arterial pressure? Systolic blood pressure plus 2 into diastolic blood pressure minus 3. It is a very simple method. You can calculate it with on your own, and you see whether perfusion is more or less. If perfusion is more than 60, you can go for mobilization and other case physiotherapy. So action for vitals are, if any of the vitals are in red, you can coordinate with consultant before physiotherapy. We should not abandon the patient if heart rate is more than 150. You have to communicate with the doctor. They will give a medication, they will reduce the heart rate, then you will go for the physiotherapy. Blood pressure, heart rate, temperature can be controlled by medication and ventilator both. Respiratory rate, SpO2 can be controlled by ventilator and medication. So all these vitals are controlled. You can control it with the medication and then go for physiotherapy. Of course, with the vitals, you have to see a ECG also. You have to see the ventilator parameters also. If all these things are in the yellow or red, you can omit the physiotherapy or other clinical markers. Like if patient has a diabetes, definitely Hoffman's and leg pain, edema, pulmonary embolism, shortness of breath, chest pain, tachycardia, fever, hypoxia. If all these things signs are there, you need to see whether the patient has a pulmonary embolism or not. Nowadays, HRCT, high resolution CT scan is available. So most of the time, pulmonary embolism can be diagnosed with the CT scan. Tension pneumothorax, X-ray, hypoxia, increased PIP, shortness of breath, chest pain, increased platelet pressure, tachycardia, and hypotension. If these signs are there, definitely there is a chances of tension pneumothorax. See for the X-ray. Recent episodes of MI, history देखो, ECG देखो. 24 to 48 hours after cardiac surgery, respiratory arrest, cardiac arrhythmia, hematemesis, and fresh blood into all these things are red sign. Head injury, patient with sedation, it is a yellow sign. Special consideration must be taken for the patient of multiple trauma. If patient is of multiple trauma, you need to see which type of fractures are there. You cannot able to go for positioning or mobilization according to that fracture. So you need to see if you can mobilize the patient. You need to see whether there is any neck injury, back injury, spinal fracture. Sometimes patients with multiple trauma are not treated orthopedically because they have to be stabilized first, like ABC, airway and breathing and circulation has to be stabilized first before fracture. You may see a undiagnosed, operated fracture in the ICU, and then also you have to treat the patient. So you have to act accordingly. ARDs, of course, it is a red sign because it needs a more PEEP in ventilator. So neurological sign, intracranial pressure more than 20 millimeter of Hg, it is a red sign. It means there is a high pressure in the brain. It can collapse or can cause a epilepsy at any point of time. If you go for head down position in ICP raised position, then it will again increase the ICP and harm the patients. It may go into the coma also. It may damage the brain also. No activity in ECG or brain dead patient, definitely no need of physiotherapy. Extremely dilated pupil at the time of assessment, definitely it is a red sign. Massive hemorrhage, yellow sign, yellow or orange sign. We need to see other parameters also with massive hemorrhage. For example, cardiac abnormality, vitals parameters, which drugs are used, they are on use. So everything has to be seen, and then you can assign the patient on the yellow or red sign. GCS less than 8, same again. In neurological patient, only neurological sign are not required or not informative for the assigning the patient. You need to see the cardiac and respiratory sign also before assigning the patients in the yellow or red sign. Operated case for head injury up to 48 hours. So if you see infusion of antiarrhythmic drugs with unstable HR, heart rate. So antiarrhythmic drugs are for unstable heart rate, but with the antiarrhythmic drug infusion, even with that, if heart rate is unstable, that means patient is very unstable. So we need to be cautious. Infusion of inotropic drug with mean arterial pressure less than 60 millimeter of Hg. That means inotropic drugs are usually increase the BP, increase the systolic BP, diastolic BP, so which will increase the mean arterial pressure. But with the infusion of inotropics, if mean arterial pressure is less than 60 millimeter of Hg, then it is definitely a red sign. It is a very unstable patient. It may collapse at any point of time during the physiotherapy. So you need to see whether I want to go for physiotherapy or not, or if I go, will I use positioning, will I go for mobilization, will I go for other things. This is subjective. If patient is on infusion or inotropic drugs, then it is a yellow sign. Antiarrhythmic drugs with stable heart rate is a yellow sign. More than 3 antibiotics with altered renal function is a yellow sign. Heavy sedated patient, it is the yellow sign. These things should be keep in mind, because this also comes under according to situation. These things also comes into the red, orange, or yellow sign. These are the inotropic drugs: dopamine, dobutamine, epinephrine, non-epinephrine, lutetium. If you see any of these drugs, you need to see whether mean arterial pressure is normal or reduced. When you see this type of drug on infusion, you need to see the BP or mean arterial pressure. Anti-arrhythmic drugs are cortisone, amiodarone, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers. If you see this type of drugs, you need to see for the heart rate abnormality. If it is there with this drugs infusion, then definitely it is a red or orange sign. Now, this is the Apache scoring system. Usually, as a physiotherapist, we are not doing any kind of scoring system in the ICU, but this scoring system is very easy. If you can manage to use this system on your clinical practice, it is very helpful to see the patient's mortality. And with the mortality, if the score is higher, then mortality rate is higher. So according to that, you can go for the assigning the patient. It is correlated well with the severity of illness. Higher the score, more the chances of patient to become unstable during the physiotherapy treatment. The point score is calculated from patient's age and 12 physiological marker, as we have seen. This is PaO2, temperature, mean arterial pressure, pH, arterial pH, heart rate, respiratory rate, sodium, potassium, creatinine, hematocrit value, white blood cell count, and Glasgow Coma scale. So all of these things are available in the ICU. Most of the things are available. You have to just calculate according to the scoring system. These are the scoring system. If for example rectal temperature is 41 degrees Celsius, then it is a +4, or if it is less than 29, then it is also a +4. You have to score this system, summate it, or every after this scoring system you have to sum all the score. If the score is 0 to 4, then it is a definitely green sign. 5 to 9, green sign. 10 to 24 points, that is a yellow sign. On the right side, if you see, these are all the mortality rate. That is 15% patients, if they are non-operated, then 15% is the mortality rate if the patient has a Apache scoring system of 10 to 14, and 7% in the post-op. The same thing. The last two, that is 25 to 34, it is a yellow sign, because more than 25 on non-operative patient, the mortality rate are 55%. So the patients are very unstable if the score are between 24 to 34. So if you can manage to use this system, you can assign the patient according to red and yellow sign. So now, up till now, we have seen how to assign the patient in red, yellow, and green sign. How will you what to see? How will you see a rhythm? How will you see a pressure? Everything. How will you see a ventilator? How will you see P peak, P plateau? So even after that, sometimes we may fall into the emergency. So what to do when you encounter emergency? If patient becomes non-responsive, not breathing, no pulse, call for the help. In ICU, clinician and start CPR. In wards, if you are in wards in hospital, activate the code blue and start CPR. At the home, call 108 and start CPR. Earliest the CPR can improve the chance of patient to revive. Effective CPR means speed should be, or that the compression speed should be at least 100 to 120 repetition per minute, and depth of compression has to be around 2 to 2.4 inch. So as we all know, CPR comprise of two things, that is compression and manual breathing. So as you've seen in the picture, you have to be on the side of the patient. Chest has to be open. Do not give compression on the bed or on airbag. If the patient is on airbag, you have to pull out the air. If the patient is on semi-flower position or some other position, you have to make the patient on the supine position. Just on the side of the patient, you have to put your hand on the sternum, middle of the sternum, and then your wrist, elbow, and shoulder should be on the same line, that is vertical line, just perpendicular to the patient's chest. You have to push hard and push fast. Rate is 100 to 120 per minute. If you are in ICU, if you are working in the ICU, this type of thing can happen even at the home also. But if you are in ICU, most of the time patients may be on ventilator. Most of the time patients are on ventilator and collapse. So if patient is on ventilator, detach the ventilator and go for the manual breathing with the bag mask. Do not give compression with patients on mechanical ventilation. You have to detach the ventilators and go for the manual breathing. Rate is 100 to 120 per minute. Depth is 2 to 2.4 inch. Ratio 30:2 if patient is not intubated. If patient is intubated, there is no ratio. The person who is giving compression has to give a compression for 2 minutes continuously, and then change the person or change the position. So in the ICU, remove the patient from ventilator and start giving breath manually with the rate of 10 breath per minute. So it is very important. Do not give CPR with the patient attached on the ventilator. You have to detach the ventilator, attach the manual bag, and then go for the ventilation. So breathing can be done mouth to mouth or with manual breathing. If you have if the patient is intubated or tracheostomy, you can directly attach the bag on the tracheostomy or ET tube. Use head tip chin lift. Give 2 breath after 30 compression. This is for the home. This is head tip chin lift manual. The same manual has to be given in the hospital also. If patient has a cervical spine injury or if you suspect cervical spine injury, then don't go for EC technique. You can go for the other technique like jaw thrust and all. But most of the time, even with jaw thrust, if you don't find effective breathing, then you go for the head tip chin lift. So this is EC technique. If you can see, the last 3 finger of this man produce E, which is on the side of the chin, and the thumb and the first finger, which is on the mask, produce the C. So this is a ECT. This is the correct way to place the ambu bag. It is very useful. You can also give manual breathing with this EC technique on the for the therapeutic purpose also. Defibrillation, it is very simple. Power on, put on. If you know the defibrillator, it is like that. Defibrillator is like normal defibrillator in ICU is like that. There are 2 discs. First you have to put on the right side of the just below the clavicle, and the second one is on the apex of the heart, on the mid axillary line. And then you have to put on the machine, attach the one as I adjust the pad as I said, charge it with the maximum joule for the pulseless ventricular tachycardia and VF. If you find the pulse in the patient with VT, then I suggest you go for you communicate with the doctors or call for the help. Do not go for defibrillator directly. This is just for your demonstration. If you don't know, don't do this. Clear all the others before going for the defibrillation, and then give the shock. It's very simple. If you are alone, there is always an AED mode on the defibrillator in ICU. Put on the AED mode. The AED mode, it is very nice, and it will give you instruction how to go for CPR and when to give a shock. So it will guide you throughout the resuscitation procedure. So if you're alone, go for AED mode until the advanced team arrive. So these are a simple algorithm for the BLS. If patient is unresponsive, no breathing, no normal breathing, activate the code blue or code 10108, start CPR, get a defibrillator, and go for the defibrillation if you know it. If you don't know it, go only CPR, and manual breathing is also very important. If you stick to that basic manual breathing and compression, then also you can save the patient. So please, those who are working in the ICU or those who are willing to work in the ICU, they need to know BLS and ACLS very thoroughly. So this is manual hyperinflation. I have mentioned it that if PIP is high, if there is a ET tube is blocked, we go for manual hyperinflation immediately. So it is manual hyperinflation has a 3-phase: a slow inspiration of more than tidal volume on a ventilator. If it is on ventilator, 50% loss tidal volume. Then you have to go for inspiratory pause, and then you go for uninterrupted expiration. You have to repeat this procedure several times and then go for the suctioning. Usually, most of the physiotherapists are using this ambu bag for the manual hyperinflation, but the correct way for manual hyperinflation is Mapleson C circuit. This circuit, the first circuit, is correct way to go for the manual hyperinflation. It has a valve in it, so you can go for the second phase, that is inspiratory pause. Here also we have valve, but it will not pause the inspiration. It will just increase the PEEP. So it will not pause the ventilation. Though for pausing the ventilation, you need Mapleson C circuit. Suctioning, everybody knows suctioning. I don't have to go into detail, but some point I want you to reminder. It requires training, can cause trauma, vagal stimulation, a sudden decrease in the heart rate is very common in the, especially in the old age patient. There are very low window period. That means 10 seconds. You have to go into in and out of the TT tube in less than 10 seconds. Require equipments like suction catheter, tubing, suction machine. Everything has to be there. It is a sterile procedure, so it is very important to be to put on a sterile gloves. Definitely suction is an invasive procedure though, so there is always a chances of infection. Also barotrauma, this thing has to be keep on mind. So if you go for suction and you see a fresh blood coming out from the suction catheter, stop it for that day, then do it again after 1 day of rest. Most frequently used suction, endotracheal and tracheostomy. We are usually go for to check the patency of error. As I have said, if you see an increase in PIP, there is a chances of kinking of the tube. So how will you check the kinking of the tube? Just you have to go for the open suction. If the catheter is not going in, then that means it is a kinking, right? Or either it is a kinking or it is because of block. So in both the case, you have to go for large suction catheter to remove the block, or you have to remove the ET tube and replace it again. So there are two types of suction: open suction and closed suction. You can see the first figure is closed suction, and the second figure is open suction. So if you see a patient with high PEEP, high pressure, go for the closed suction, because it is the closed circuit. It is attached with ventilator. It will not reduce the pressure abruptly. So there is a less chances of barotrauma in the closed suction. The disadvantage is like if there is a closed suction, you will find it very difficult to go for rotatory action, which is needed in open suction. And to remove the block, this type of suction are not used. You have to go for open suction. Large bore suction catheter has to be replaced. So to remove the blockage or to remove the tenacious, very thick secretion, you have to go for the open suction. But if the PEEP is high, first try with closed suction. If it is not removed, then go for the open suction with the precaution which I have mentioned earlier. So now this will complete our essentials of physiotherapy in ICU. I have covered all the thing. Now let us go for one scenario. Very simple. 60 years of old male, case of COPD exacerbation on ventilation mode. CMV, that is continuous pedentary ventilation. The patient is in continuous pedentary ventilation, which itself put the patient in the red or yellow sign. Now PP is 5, which is a normal, that is a yellow. PP is 20, that is also normal. Respiratory rate is 12, and tidal volume is 4. So every other thing is normal. BP is also, heart rate is 110, that is also yellow. BP is 100, SpO2 is 90, and temperature is 100. So everything comes under the yellow sign, so red sign. X-ray shows bilateral haziness, so it is a little bit worried. And urine output is 700 ml per day. Patient is conscious. So all these things comes put the patient. I will assign this patient as a yellow sign only because the patient has on a CMV mode. Also, I will go for physiotherapy. But during the physiotherapy, I find in PIP is greater than 50. So sudden rise in PIP I have noted. Heart rate also increased to 140, which is also red sign. BP 90, which is also a red sign. And SpO2 it is a definitely red sign. So I have to stop the physiotherapy. So I will stop it first. So action I have to stop the physiotherapy. I will auscultate it again. I will go for air blast. And one thing I missed it. Call for the help or ask the clinical physician, and he will go for the chest x-ray. So I will tell the patient, the nurses, to go for chest x-ray. So the chest x-ray will take a time. But if I see a air blast is absent or auscultation shows reduced breath sounds, unilateral or bilateral, then there are three chances. Either it is because of kinking, either it is because of blockage, ET2 block, or either it is because of massive sputum retention. In all these conditions, I will go for manual hyperinflation and suction immediately. Of course, I will communicate with the doctor after during the treatment, or I will readjust the tube to see whether kinking is reduced or no. After this treatment, I will again check for the air plus and see if air plus is returned or not. Meanwhile, if X-ray shows pneumothorax, then of course, yeah, we have to go for the ICD insertion. We have to stop the physiotherapy until the ICD is inserted. So this is our plan for that patient. So now today's lessons are: assessment is important, very important. It is not like that final year के MPT assessment is important. After that assessment, as an ICU physiotherapy, your assessment and observation and palpation skills has to be very keen, and you have to act fast. Divide the patient in red, yellow sign, or orange sign according to your situation, according to your skills. Divide the patient. That will boost your confidence. Monitoring that sign during the chest physiotherapy, if you put the patient in the yellow sign because of PEEP, then you have to monitor PEEP during the chest physiotherapy. And of course, you have to be very quick with the emergency. Communicate with your clinical physician, nurse, attendant very well. Do not do everything on your own. ICU is always a multidisciplinary. You have to act accordingly. So I will end our session with the big thank you.
It was really wonderful experience, wonderful learning experience. Thank you very much, sir. Through the
Thank,
webinar, we have done virtual trip to ICU.
thank you, madam. Thank you. And I will also, I am also thanking you and sir and all the Parallel University for giving me an opportunity to discuss my experience of on the ICU. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir.